Hey guys, it's Shonda Hunt back with another episode, and today we're going to talk about nodes. Nuke is a node-based compositing software, and we use nodes to perform operations. So what is a node? A node is a small mathematical machine that reads, processes, and manipulates footage. Here I have a simple node build where I have my footage, and then I have a series of nodes to manipulate the footage to complete a task or achieve a look. And then I have a write node. The footage is considered the read node. The nodes following the read node are called effect nodes, meaning the effect that we are applying to our footage. And after all of our effect nodes, we have a write node. The write node will render the footage with all of the effects applied. Whenever we create an effects node, there will be an arrow at the top and an arrow at the bottom. The top arrow is for the node's input. What do we want this node to affect? You can attach it wherever in the tree, the node tree, you want this grade node to start affecting the footage. The bottom arrow is the output, and that will either be connected to another node, like we have here, with all the arrows pointing down, or it will be connected to the final write node that you're going to use to render out your footage. This menu on the left side breaks down all the different categories that the nodes fall under. If you hover your mouse over each icon, you can see which nodes will be in the options. So here we have the image nodes, and we can just cycle through a few, and we'll see different nodes appear in their different categories. We will cover all of these nodes in later episodes. The first category that we have is the image category. Here we see this is where our read node option lives. Earlier we discussed several ways to bring in a read node, and one of them is simply by going to the image icon and selecting read. And now we can search through our file path and find the read node that we want to bring in. Let's look at some of the other options. We also have the write node here. We will go over some of the settings for the write node later. We have the profile node. If you connect the profile node to your node tree, and click on Open Profile Panel, you have some options that show up here. I've already run the profile in this comp, so all of the things that were processed when I first ran the profile option are still showing up here in the data section. There are a bunch of settings here that you can adjust, and you simply click on Profile, and it will analyze all of the comps and all of the nodes in your comp to check the performance of each node. If your script is heavy or running slow, You can run this profile node to check which nodes are the heaviest. And then you can probably pre-render right above that node so that you can reduce how much of these things that node is taking up to help your script run faster. Next, we have the UDIM import, which is also a way to bring in files. We have the option to create a constant. By default, the constants come in black. You can change them to whichever color you want using the color wheel or the color picker. And this is just the same as creating a solid. It's just a node that is simply a color node. We have the option for a checkerboard. Color bars, a color wheel, and the curve tool. The curve tool can be used to analyze and track different aspects of the image, including the average pixels, the exposure changes, and the brightest and darkest pixels of an image. All of these things are tools that we can use when we're compositing, and they are considered image nodes that can be found here, as well as simply using the keyboard shortcuts or pressing tab to bring in any of those same nodes. Let's take a look at some of the settings for a write node. We have our read node, and all I did was use a hue correct to remove the green from the plate, which is also known as despilling. And now I want to simply render my despilled plate. So let's attach this write node to the end of my node tree and bring up the properties. First, we'll want to click on the option File to choose the file path for where our render will be located. When compositing, it's best to use image sequences, so we have to include a frame number variable within our file name. This is called frame number padding. Nuke relies on the image sequence numbering to determine the frame range for read nodes. Whenever a sequence of images is generated, a number convention is used to number frames. Padded frames are frame numbers that have a specified number of digits, where the zeros are used to fill the unused digits. There are two options for frame padding in Nuke. The first is to use a hashtag, where each hashtag represents the possible frame padding. So 3 hashtags means 3 digits. Usually, we'll be rendering EXR files out of Nuke. If I save this, we will see here the file type also changed to EXR. Depending on what you're trying to render, you have all these options for the types of image that you want to output. The second option for padding our frames, and notice that I included a period in between the file name and the frame padding. And after the frame padding, I added another period before I added the rest of the file extension. The second option for padding our frames is the printf style method, which uses percentages and symbols followed by the number 0, then the actual number you want to use. So we can type this out. And this will pad by 4 digits. And I can save that. The rest of the settings in the right node will depend on what exactly you need to output. We can leave the default output transform, color space to linear. And we don't really need to change anything else for now. And now we can render out our right node by simply clicking the render option. We can choose here how many frames we want to output. We can output all the frames, the input frames. We can choose custom. So I'll change this just to 10 so that we're not rendering. Actually, I'll even change it to 5 so that we're not rendering too much. And let's render this out. Now that I have my file rendered, let's read that in. And I'll go up to Image, select Read, and here we see now I have my D-spill rendered out. And now I can view that new read node. Okay guys, that's all for today's episode. And the next episode we'll continue going over more of the node categories.